Hi, my name is Pavel Sayanko. Welcome to a new Cube video, and today I show you a couple of small but very useful features. Let's go! So we are back to our terminal. We start the cube as usual, and we choose some example cube file. And today I would like to show you some small features which are too small to dedicate extra special video for each of it, so I collected them all together, and in this way one sees that that they are there and one can use them time to time, but they are, in my opinion, too little, too small to make an extra video for each of it. So one of these such features is presentation modus, let's say. As I already mentioned in previous video, one can start Cube with the command line option - presentation, and that will allow to use CubeGUI in online demonstrations via Zoom or via another online platform more comfortable. Although the biggest problem here is the not visible mouse cursor, so the presentation modus basically makes mouse cursor more visible and displays clicks with left and right mouse of on the mouse. So one can start CubeGUI with command line option, or one can go into the display menu, and there is option enable presentation mode, and one gets such a mouse. So that is one thing. Another thing is also in display menu, enable QWebEngine. So internally CubeGUI uses for displaying of user guide or some other helps the web renderer, and Qt, the library which we are using to develop the CubeGUI, offers two implementation for such renderer. One is this QWebEngine, it's more powerful, and another is I think it is just QHTML widgets or something similar, so less powerful. So sometimes one experiences the problems with display of user guide, and because depending on installation, it might conflict with OpenGL settings, and in this way the CubeGUI doesn't work properly. So we offer you possibility to disable QWebEngine. So in my case it is now disabled, and then it falls back into the reduced implementation of renderer and doesn't use OpenGL, and in this way one can still use user guide even on such platforms. Optically, difference between QWebEngine and another renderer is visible in small details in display of HTML code. So for example here, that is display of our user guide without QWebEngine, and if one enables it, so display is a little bit different. The fonts are different, there is a header and so on, because there are more elements of HTML standard are supported. So that's another thing. Now it is probably a least relevant feature, but nevertheless we have an option in file take a screenshot. So if one clicks it, it takes a screenshot of the cube without the frames. Every modern system, every modern desktop allows one to take screenshot using the system feature. Therefore this feature is really least relevant. Nevertheless it is there, because there are some systems where this way is probably the only way to take a screenshot of CubeGUI. Another small thing is so-called settings here. So one can store global settings, load global settings or delete global settings. So for example, if I store some settings under my name, my settings for example, and one can delete them, so they will be gone, or one can load them. So the settings are one stores basically the chosen precision, chosen size and color of font, color map, and so on, such the settings of the CubeGUI which are independent on opened cube. If one clicks and selects here restore last state, it meant that if one closes cube file on some, let's say, in some moment like this one, for example, so I stopped to work on it and I closed the cube. If I return to the work with the cube and start, it will and open this previous cube file. It will open it in that state which we left. So here we also see the stored screenshot of the last state. So it can, in this way, I can recall where did I stop to work on this with this cube. So it's obviously I was looking at the metric execution, and I opened the call tree. So that is the setting restore last state. So I usually keep it on. Another the feature which probably doesn't deserve own video, nevertheless it's very important, is the help menu. Here I just wanted to point out which options are there. So like getting started, one gets the part of the user guide where introduction into Cube is listed and some command line options. If one selects user guide, one gets of course user guide. The same user guide we publish on a website after every release. So here one can work through the whole display and actually learn a little bit more probably about the features than I can present in these videos. One can open user guide in external browser if this internal browser suddenly doesn't work from whatever reason, like I mentioned, OpenGL for example. One can learn about which controls and shortcuts we offer. Not many, nevertheless they are useful and sometimes accelerate the work. Usual what this functionality, so we can learn about, for example, what is this precision menu point, what is this absolute modus, so here one can read about it, and so on. So nearly every element has own what this help. In about, that is basically about a window of CubeGUI. Here we show the revision. So in this case it is external, because it is done with tarball. In case of git build, or maybe in the future there will be revision number. So we offer here, we display here our homepage, contact email address, and for such technical purposes we also show with which Qt did we build Cube and which QMake did we use for that. This is important for this for the building of external plugins. So plugin infrastructure of Qt requires strictly that the core component and plugins are built using the same Qt, otherwise plugins are not working. So therefore we inform the user which Qt has been used, so that one can build third-party plugins if one wants to add them to this GUI. And there are helps about our plugins. This help is available if one has opened Cube and some plugins got activated. Like here we have, for example, statistic plugin, sunburst plugin, topology, Scorpio configuration, source, advisor, and so on and so on. Or the detailed information about all these plugins which we deliver together with CubeGUI, I will explain in separate videos for each of it, because that is an extension of the functionality of CubeGUI. Here one can get info about plugins, so for example advisor, short description, and where it is located. Location is important in the case if one installed some third-party plugins and one doesn't know where the plugin is located, or opposite, one wants to be sure that some specific plugin got loaded and not something older version, for example, or something like that, so that one knows that correct plugin is running. Here also show documentation for this plugin. So if we click here, it jumps in the user guide into chapter about QWebEngine plugin. So here we have another menu, plugin documentation. That's basically that what I showed right now. So it is part of the user guide where this plugin is described. So one can jump directly to the information about plugin and not search in a user guide where it is. But it is located in the very same document. And here we have selected metric description. So if we click on it, here that is exactly the situation where QWebEngine prevents display of this help. So we have to disable it and show it again. Metric, and here we see the metric and help about execution. So what is execution and time spent on program execution, blah blah blah. So, and the last feature which I would like to describe here is actually that what we see, it is info window. So if one goes on a context menu over a metric or over the call path, one has as a very first element info, and that displays and opens this screen. So here we gather together basically information about selected elements. And currently we have selected element metric execution, main, and here it is not visible, but it is also the machine clicks. Yeah. So the metric information is on this part, the call tree or region information is on this part, and actually here is hidden information is about the system element. This part turns visible if one keeps info detached. That is a little bit looking ahead, so one can detach this element and it jumps out. And if one clicks here on info, here, for example, info, then this element set visible as well. Normally, one is not really interested about on info of system tree elements because there are not many attributes, not many things to see. Therefore, we actually keep it closed. So, what do we see in the case of metric? So that is the description of the metric. It is long, little bit longish information. Display name, unique name. Unique name is important in derived metrics, which I will explain in another video. So also data type of the metric. So like for example, execution, it's time, so it is in double. For example, number of bytes cannot be double; it should be an integer. The unique of metric that is seconds, can be occurrences, can be bytes, can be anything like that. So value is internal element. In this case, it is empty. It can be void and can be another values. In URL, we store the information where one can get help or description of this metric in such a little bit cryptic form. Here is this @mirror@, that is the placeholder for actual mirror. I will explain it in a second what is that, and the document. So the metric is inclusive. What is inclusive, exclusive, I would explain it in a more extensive video about Cube library. And there are properties of a metric which are more technical, so one can convert it into the data. Some metrics one cannot convert. It's cacheable, so it doesn't change in a time, and we can cache the value. It is normal metric, it means it holds the data. It is not derived metric, and it is row-wise metric. It means we can calculate, perform operations in a row-wise manner. That accelerates a little bit processing. So it doesn't have any attributes, and the path to its value, it's a path within a metric tree. So basically here is also displayed. Region part of this info is it's all information about the region. So we show region name, main underscore. We show also mingled name. In this case, it is the same. If it would be C++ code, C++ code, they would be different. One is internal mangled name and then demangled. Region description was not entered by Scorpy. Call pass ID 1, that is a little bit internal information. If one clicks on the very last element, so for example, one can estimate the size of the call tree if one would like to. So if one goes, for example, here, so sometimes it is possible to store beginning line and end line of this region. Not every instrumenter, not every compiler provides this information, so in this case it's undefined and defined. Paradigm is compiler, it means it is compiler instrumentation. If we go into the, for example, MPI called is MPI, it can be OpenMP and so on. The role of this region, so one to all, it is collective. If we go to, for example, if I will find now some interesting iSense, if it is there, probably there is no. Here it is OpenMPI, that is implicit barrier, and here we also see the lines. We have here only collective MPIs. No communication so far. And URL, that would be the help about this region. The measurement system didn't set anything, so that's why we cannot display anything. Source file is MPI because it is MPI library. If we click on some another region, so we see that is the source file. We can open it and study the source code. Caller info is not available. In some instrumentation cases it is available, and then we display here which region called this actually this region. And also call pass can hold parameters, numeric and string parameters. In this case they are also empty. It can hold also general attributes, and the same is the path to the value of this region. Also here down we have seen that there is a metric information. So for example, in this case it is execution time. If we go on something more interesting, let's see, like here for example, weighted barrier, it jumps to the information about weighted barrier, and actually in this help we display what does it mean this waiting at barriers, or what is the state, how it is calculated, so on. So obviously all these times where the waiting times where the application waits till all partners of the barrier start to work. So basically latest one enters the barrier, and barrier completion is counterpart just on the end, and so on. In this way one can learn about the definition of these wait states, which Scalasca defines, and here a more complex wait state, and so on. In here tab there is empty because we have here no URL set, and in global information we display such global info about the cube file, where it is located, which mirrors is used to display the help. So for in this case that is this URL plus this file, so one can get it actually using curl or get. Global attributes are not set. The library which was used to generate this cube file, the version of cube, the anchor syntax within this version, and CubePL, that is the cube processing language. The syntax is 1.1, and there are some technical also elements like title of call tree, flat tree, and so on. So one can learn a little bit of the global information about the cube. The most important are probably mirrors and global attributes. So these features are, I call it bits and pieces, and I hope you like this video. Please give us a comment, subscribe, and give us a like. Thank you very much, and see you next time.